My name is Michael Coates, and I'm the co-founder of two veteran-owned organisations. And these conversations are dedicated to supporting the crosshair where business meets the military. This episode is the one we speak about small business. Sebastian Bates is the son of a colonel. In this episode, we speak about his early childhood, the value in having a vision and creating a team. We also speak about post-traumatic growth and the effect his own trauma has had on the growth of his business. This is part of the Declassified network, and this is the Forces Friendly podcast. What's your first or your earliest military memory?
I'd probably say, there's memories looking back at pictures, which you kind of, you know what I mean? You kind of think that's your first memory. I would say that from pictures, it's a picture of me in my dad's boots when I was about 2 years old with a maroon beret on. But my earliest memory would probably be one of the moments of him coming back from tour or coming back from exercise.
Yeah.
You know, I think they were quite poignant memories for me. Got so many memories, so yeah, it's hard to pick one.
Yeah. Was it good though? Did you feel like when you was a kid, did you feel like the military was always part of your kind of life?
I think when you're growing up in a military family, you feel like you're in it. You know what I mean? You just feel like you're in the army. I certainly believed I was at the age of 6.
So no different, as in like it was just a normal.
Yeah, absolutely. Normal. Yeah, definitely the normal. I mean, you know, you were especially when you're so involved as a family, you know, you're just a part of it. And it's such a big part of your life. So yeah, definitely.
What was your dad in?
He's in the artillery. He was in the artillery.
Okay, yeah.
He's just left.
What was he in? What part?
He was in 2-9 and then he was in 7 RHA. When I was growing up, he was in 7 RHA Paras.
Yeah. Did he spend a lot of time then? Was it mainly 2-9 then?
2-9 when he was younger.
Yeah.
And then he spent most of his time, I would say, 7 RHA.
Yeah,
from my memory. He'll probably listen to this and tell me I've got it all wrong.
Yeah, that's
but
yeah. And so everyone you was with, so childhood friends.
Yeah.
Was that all military stuff? Was it?
Not really. Not really. I think we had quite a few friends who were, but you know, we lived in Aldershot, where all of our neighbours, obviously army, a lot of Gurkhas around where we were, which was brilliant as well. But I went to a normal school with, you know, there weren't very many army kids in the school really that I was aware of. You know.
Was your dad ever away for periods of time?
Yeah, a lot. He would go away sort of 6 months at a time on exercise or, you know,
on tour.
Yeah.
Was that obvious as a child?
Absolutely.
Do you ever look back at that now and think something was missing, or was it norm?
Now that I've become a dad, you know, for me it's like if I go away for a week from my kid, I'm just like, you know, I obviously miss her, but you know, I think, and back then the only form of communication with blueies. You know, you'd only contact through letter, and you get one back in a month's time or something. Do you know what I mean? I'm really a believer of its quality over quantity in terms of time. So you know, when he was home, it was amazing. You know, he was really present with us and really making the most of it. So we'd just be so excited for him to get back. You know, to spend quality time with him. So yeah, obviously it was difficult. But I think he more than made up for it when he was home.
Yeah. Was you part of military life as well, like with your mother and is it just you, child?
4 of us.
Oh, is it 4 of you?
Yeah.
Was you part of it? Was you part of the mess? Was you part of like, you know? Did you
Yeah. So I mean, my childhood was just spent climbing tanks, doing assault courses, watching my dad jump out of planes. You know, going to all the different para events. It was great.
Yeah.
You know, we were so absorbed into the whole lifestyle.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Go back to schooling. You know, we've had chats before. We've known each other for a little bit, and the early part of schooling wasn't great. You know, there was a little bit of bullying involved initially. Just talk about that a bit. The kind of first couple of years of schooling.
So, I mean, there was about 40 children in the class. It was a huge, huge class. I'm not sure why, but there was just a kind of big problem for the school. And the turnover of teachers was really high in the school. We had about over 10 teachers join and leave in 1 year. I think in year 3, it's just not a great environment in that time. I'm sure it's changed now, but in terms of bullying, with that number of kids in the class, I probably went through similar amount of bullying, to any other child typically goes through at that sort of age. But it certainly wasn't severe at that stage.
Then you moved schools. Is that when your dad moved?
Yeah, so we moved from Aldershot to Bristol. And initially, I was born in Bristol, but then very soon we moved to Aldershot. Then we moved back again to Wiltshire, and then that's when it changed for me. Growing up, I think I had the best, first 6 years of any child growing up. It was just such an exciting time. We were out playing with kids till it got dark. As you can imagine, it was just such a great time. So many families around everywhere where we were living. So it was brilliant. And when we moved to Bradford and Avon, where it was just a completely different environment. I think a lot of the people were a lot older. You got a lot of pensioners in the town. I think there was about 3 or 4 children on the block maximum. So, being in the countryside, it was just a very, very different feel.
You settled into school?
I went from a state school with 40 kids to a private school with 13 kids who had already kind of established friendships. And so it was quite hard for me. I think I was, I was pretty much bullied for about 3 or 4 years from there,
Was that... kids can be cruel, like everyone knows, and there's various things that come with that. But that early childhood, especially with the move, was it traumatic time? Was it chaotic looking back on it?
I think it was, but I think it was handled really well by my parents. I think they did an amazing job to kind of make us feel at home and welcome, and
safe,
to try and ease the transition, because from where we went to where we, to the new place, it was just such a contrast.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it was, but they did an amazing job.
Yeah. And in respect to the kind of bullying that went on at that school with you, was that I suppose a harsh time? That's what I'm like.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was going from school where I was being bullied a lot to going home and just being alone. There was no kids around, so it was just trying to learn to deal with things on your own, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the bullying there started obviously verbal, and it's the smallest things, but it's often the smallest things where it can be the most difficult for a child going through bullying. I think, especially things you can't pinpoint, you can't really say someone's doing, because people can be really sly and they can hide their actions quite easily with bullying. I think. And a lot of the kids I work with today, it's certainly true. But then it moved on to more physical bullying, at least only briefly. But yeah, it was a pretty difficult time. I think we tried everything we could. I think at one point my dad had enough of it, and he walked into school, walked past the head teacher, went into the classroom, full uniform, and just had a go at all the kids in the class. And you wouldn't get away with it nowadays, would you? Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think, this is what I always say, bullying doesn't just affect the child, it affects the whole family. I mean, if you're aware your child's going through bullying, then you're going through it yourself. I mean, it's someone you love going through something really difficult, probably the most challenging thing they've ever been through.
Yeah.
And they're going through it right in front of you, and deep down that to strengthen their character, they've got to overcome it on their own. It's even worse if they're going through it and you don't know they're going through it, and all you start to see is communication slide away. So yeah, I don't blame him for going in there and trying to help. Yeah, it was probably a last resort for him.
It must be frustrating for a parent to see their child going through bullying. But martial arts for you was a kind of a safe haven, and
100%.
You developed yourself through that. And what did that mean to you at that point in your life?
Martial arts was consistent community outside of school, where respect wasn't an anomaly, it was just the foundation. There's so many clubs you go into, sports clubs, activities, where especially if you're being bullied and you're desperate for that kind of security. But when you go into like a martial arts environment, there's this underlying, feeling of respect, mutual respect, and every single martial arts club has a moral code. So that was just embedded into the culture there, and I just felt at home immediately.
What was you doing? What martial arts
That was
did you start off with?
that was traditional taekwondo.
Okay.
When I was about 5, 6 years old, I guess.
Yeah, and did that go all the way through? Had you always, going from kind of 6 right the way up to senior school? Had you always been involved with martial arts?
No. So from 6 till, So from 6 till 16, I was studying taekwondo.
Yeah.
And it was traditional taekwondo, but it started moving towards cross training, and I started doing a lot more kickboxing, Western boxing, and eventually, obviously, into Thai boxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and other styles.
I was bullied in senior school actually, and but there was a lot of it going on in my school at the time, and I certainly didn't get it the worst. But for me, like the Army Cadets was a real, this solace, this amazing place I could go to and be myself and thrive. Was that similar to you then?
Totally, and so how many similarities are there between a structured martial arts environment where respect is expected to something like cadets or scouts, or do you know what I mean? There's that. I think that's so important. And you probably really took to it because you were going through that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, it was easy to be there. You know what I mean? It was easy to be there. I didn't have to deal with anything else. I could really focus. I think that was a big thing. Just even saying that now, that ability to focus. Whereas being in school and having the manipulation of kids, how they conduct themselves, especially the bullies, and then being out of that, feeling safe somewhere where you can excel, and just having that absolute focus and being mindful to get on with the job. Do you think it's important then for kids to have that?
To have that focus?
Yeah, focus definitely, but to have a place where they can go away from school.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, so many things go on. I mean, the way we've taught over 5,000 children, and from working with so many children, it's become really obvious to us, that children go through 3 major transitions, and that's going through bullying. You're now more likely bullied than not being bullied. Transitioning through school, pretty much every child is going to change schools, and that has an immediate effect on your community, and can be quite an emotional time for children. The other one is obviously adolescence, and I think having a consistent community in the background where you feel welcome, which gives you a clear structure of things to achieve over a long period of time, can really help mentor you through those 3 big transitions. And something like going for a black belt, which can take 7 to 8 years, for me that was the perfect environment to help mentor me through those 3 major transitions, and set me up for life as an adult. And that's exactly what we do. So we've got a program, the Black Belt Journey, where we take students over an 8-year journey, eventually leading them through into adulthood.
We'll get onto the business in a little while, but you left senior school, you joined the Royal Marine Reserve for a little bit, for about 18 months, and then you ended up in Denmark. Why did you end up in Denmark?
So that sounds a bit random, doesn't it? So I'm half Danish, my mum's Danish, so pretty much every other year we were in Denmark for Christmas or for summer, and I left school, and within half a year I had applied to go to university in Denmark to study architecture. I couldn't get my head around paying a fortune to study if I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And to go into, to take on huge amounts of debt like all my friends were doing, I just couldn't get my head around that. And at the time, it might change soon with Brexit, but at the time, and still now, if you're in the EU, you can get free education in Denmark. I mean, they've got an amazing welfare system which will pay for you to study, even a 5 to 7 year degree like architecture. So that's what I wanted to go into. And I flew to Denmark. I started living there. I had a Danish girlfriend for a long time there, and I was working as a chef initially while I was waiting for my course to start. And then I started studying architecture. And initially I found it fascinating. I still do find it really interesting. But the lifestyle for me was, getting up at 6:30, coming home at 6 p.m, really hardcore studying every day. And then, to pay for rent and food and living, because I didn't have all these loans that, UK kids have, when they're studying. I was just washing dishes. So I was washing dishes till 2 a.m. in the morning every day and then repeating it 6:30 up again. And pretty much after a year and a half of that, my motivation started to leave. And I went to my professor and asked her, what is my life going to look like in 10 years if I really smash this? And she painted a picture for me of what that would look like, and it was just the least inspiring picture ever. And it's funny looking back, isn't it? I mean, if you look back, if she had given me an amazing, inspiring story of what I could be, or what that could look like, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today doing all this. I'd be doing something else. So that was a turning point for me. And that night I went home and bought a one-way ticket to India.
Like you do.
As you do, yeah.
Go on then. And how long did it take then from deciding that to travel in India? 2 months.
We left 2 months later, so that was a tough one to explain to Danish girlfriend at the time. But
did she not go with you?
No, that not then. No. So my old best mate from school, I had a chat with him. He was in a similar position. I can't remember if he was actually in university at the time or was thinking about going or something. But I was just like, should we just do it? We booked the ticket. And we just wanted adventure at that age. Looking back, my life's just been filled with so much adventure. It's a really high value for me just to experience everything in life. And, 7-8 years studying architecture and then having to do placements after that in one location, it just didn't excite me. And so this trip was going to be like the biggest, most exciting thing we've ever done. And it really was. We had no money to do it. We had to try and, I was only with him for sort of 2-3 months. But we were saving money by sleeping on sleeper trains. Bearing in mind, I was about 19 years old doing this, So we traveled around the whole of India. And then after that, I took a ticket to Southeast Asia and traveled around there for about another year. Just picked up work wherever I could.
Yeah, what was you doing? Work?
All sorts of stuff. So, little things to get by were, I was chasing monkeys out of hotels in Mumbai to stay the night for free. I'd go to a hostel and I'd say to them, it would be really helpful for you if you had a really good English speaker at the bus stops, helping you get all the tourists to come back to the hotel. So I'd do that, get free accommodation, free food for a couple of weeks. I used to go to the full moon parties, and rent about 4 or 5 bungalows in bulk for a cheap price, go to the docks and then rent them off to tourists there. So, little things which just made it easier, but also just added to the excitement and the adventure, and made sure that I could do it for longer, And then there were things like fire shows and all this sort of stuff I started getting into, but I had a great time.
All legal, of course.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But just being creative and finding ways to survive out there and to keep the adventure going. And I think, really what I wanted to do was to fund the Thai boxing training that I was doing out there. So very, very quickly I started training at Thai boxing camps. And after 2 years of, 3 years of not doing structured martial arts classes, but, doing boxing in Denmark and that sort of stuff on my own, I reignited my passion with martial arts when I was walking into a Muay Thai gym in the north of Thailand in Chiang Mai. And it was, something out of an 80s Jean-Claude Van Damme, movie. Yeah. Where I just felt like this was amazing, training. It was concrete floor. We were training on that. And the next day it was blisters on your feet, and it was really, really raw. The guys who were training there were training to fight, and it was exactly where I wanted to be. Yeah. After doing traditional martial arts, I moved into boxing, 16 all the way to 20, and I really wanted efficient, practical martial arts, which really taught self-defense. And Muay Thai is just a world-renowned sport for stand-up fighting, and that's something that I really leaned into for the last sort of 5 years, or from 5 years from then on. So So that was amazing. And then I went to the south and carried on training down there. And that was fantastic, really.
So working to train, getting around. Do you get bored easily as you're doing this? In general, do you get bored easy? Do you move on from things quickly?
I need to be quite engaged with what I'm doing. That's probably the way I'd answer that question. I wouldn't say I get bored easily. I'm certainly able to stick at something for a long time, probably a lot longer than other people, if I find it really engaging. If I'm passionate about something, I can stick through it without sleep for ages.
Yeah.
But it's got to be engaging.
Yeah. Have you ever fought, or has it always just been training?
No, I fought. Yeah, so I
Did you fight out there?
Yeah. So I eventually came back to England, started the War Academy anyway, and then again, I probably spent about a year and a half in total in Thailand on Thai boxing camps.
Right.
The trouble was, I was teaching children, and I wanted to compete, full contact as well, but I couldn't rock up the next day in class with a, bruised and battered, and it just didn't send the right message. So I could never find the right time to do it in the UK.
Yeah.
I also wanted to compete in, where Thai boxing had origin, where it was from, in the birthplace. And for me, that was flying back to Thailand and, training for 2 or 3 months for a fight and doing it there. The first time I did that, I got injured just before I was going to compete and had to pull out. And so many things. You plan a 3-month trip to prepare yourself for a fight, and so many things can go wrong, from getting a niggle in your knee, or bruising your hand, or injuring your wrist, or getting ill because you're training so hard 6 to 8 hours a day. It was so easy to get something wrong, and initially I always thought I wanted to compete in perfect condition, and I think it's a bit like life, really. You're never going to be in that perfect place. There's never a perfect time. You've just got to do it. So I went back a year later, day one, sign up to a fight, and I said, in 3 months I'm competing, whatever happens, even if I get injured. The problem was, 2 months later I did get injured. I did get injured, and I got injured. It was my knee that got injured, so that was quite tricky. But I had an amazing fight. It was they put me in with someone who had 30 pro fights.
Yeah.
So all the money was on him. So I had to leave quite quickly when I won on the third round with a knockout.
Yeah.
But
was he Thai?
He was Thai. Yeah.
It's like they're different breed, isn't it?
They're just amazing. It's just amazing. So much respect for them. It's such a beautiful art. The skill is just incredible. And so practical. Just tough guys. But it's like football to them. So they'll go and have a fight at the weekend, whereas we'll go and play football. We'll have a football match on Sunday. These guys will go for their monthly stadium fight. Some of them have got 300 fights.
Is that because it's poor?
Initially,
is there a desperation out of it? Is it?
I guess
because what I'm trying to get at there is, if they're desperate to get out of poverty, you're not.
Yeah.
So what is the driver for you then to fight?
For me to first of all, I think a lot of them fight because you can earn, a lot of them from farming communities, but you can earn several thousand more Thai baht by competing in 1 hour than you can 3 months of farming, and they just go to the stadium, send the money back home.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so popular there, I think, and it's just a way of life for them. It's a national sport for them as well, so it's something they're immensely proud of.
Yeah.
For me, what was the drive? I just wanted to push the boundaries of what I could do, and I've always taken kind of the more difficult road, subconsciously. It's not even within my power.
Yeah.
It's just something I have to do, almost to kind of prove to myself that I can do things.
Well, uncomfortable, suffering, pushing through stuff, and I suppose without going to war and conflict and fighting, it gets very uncomfortable when you set your own business up. And you went back to Bristol, did all your qualifications to be a personal trainer, and what was that transition like then, coming back and being totally dedicated on almost fighting and travelling and experiencing all this, this adventure, getting back to Bristol and back to work?
I think the hardest, I did like a family holiday in between, and I just found it so difficult because I'd been used to so much freedom. And I remember suddenly it was like going back to childhood again. It was just so difficult. And then it was straight back into it. To be honest, it was really exciting because, for the first time I felt like I was owning a business and I was running something for myself, which was really exciting for me.
What year was that?
That was 2010.
Okay.
I got back.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Max. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, did the 6-week personal training course. By that point, I'd completely run out of money in Asia. So I borrowed £3,000 from my dad. I paid him back 3 months later from the money I'd earned from teaching afterwards. And my first gig was teaching Thai boxing in Bath. I landed a job earning 16 quid an hour to teach this adult Thai boxing club. It was in a pretty rundown gym, and the group of guys in there, it was just like the most, how much testosterone can we put into a room? It was amazing to teach and great fun, and the guys were amazing. But certainly a lot of the younger kids, they weren't from privileged backgrounds at all, and they were really struggling with a lot of different challenges in their life. And I kind of became the mentor for them. I was only 20 at the time, but they were sort of 16, 17. And they really looked up to me, and I took that role and that responsibility quite seriously,
Yeah.
And so I think for a lot of them it was a turning point for them, but also a turning point for me, watching the impact of mentoring a young person through difficult transitions. And that's when my whole viewpoint changed on what I wanted to do. It wasn't so much on personal training. It was on creating the biggest impact I possibly could on a young person. I mean, looking back, it's the smallest seeds that we plant, that just kind of compound over time. The smallest lessons that we give, which compound over time and make the biggest changes in people's lives. And I hope that the students there will look back and see that class as a real turning point when they join the dots up.
Role modeling or being a role model, and having a role model when you're, especially in that kind of mid-teens, you don't know where you're going. It's a bit not much direction. That's why a lot of guys join the military when they're 16, 17, 18, and they thrive from it, especially if they've had, again, chaotic backgrounds or certainly things like abusive backgrounds or violent backgrounds. They really thrive when they've got that male role model or female role model, but really with men, that male role model to kind of emulate. And it's really, really important. And off the back of that, you've just said it a second ago, but being able to impact young adults and now young children. You set the Warrior Academy up in 2011. What is it? I mean, back then, what was the why did you set it up?
What was the motivation? If I can make this much of an impact to a 16-year-old's life, what if I can catch them earlier and start planting those seeds, those strong values, improving their confidence, improving their concentration, their respect, their conduct from a young age? Then, you watch that compound over time. And I think that's how I can make the biggest impact. And that's what I set out to do.
What was it?
January 2011, I started a club in a school in Road, which is a little village in Somerset. There's about 80 students in the school. I did a course for them, and it was just like a Sainsbury's Active kind of course. And then after that, I suggested to the teacher, look, why don't we just start a club here? She said, okay. We had 20 students sign up, which is like almost a third of the school, which was quite cool. And they were just so enthusiastic. It reminded me of when I was younger. They were just so enthusiastic to learn. And they made such rapid progress. It was amazing. So I just, from there, just started to build. And it was just one club after the other. And I think within 2 years, we had about 25 clubs.
Was it just you going around the clubs? Or what was the actual structure?
Initially,
going to a bit of business now.
Yep.
So you set up by yourself, and then so that 25 clubs.
Yeah.
What was you subcontracting? What was you doing?
No, so everything was on my own, one-man band. I mean, initially it was so, I had so little money to start anything. There was no advertising.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. I mean, I did a few like flyers and cheap guerrilla advertising, posters up in bus stops, that sort of stuff. But whatever I could do to get the word out, really. And I think when you're starting up, it's when you're most creative as well. When you have very little resources, you become incredibly resourceful. And I think for me, I started in after school clubs because there was no hall hire fee, and schools would help me advertise. So I had distribution there already.
Yeah.
So I could go in. What I had was loads of time, no money, loads of time. So I'd go into a school with my time, spend my time teaching the children for free for a month, and the school would distribute flyers. Sometimes they'd even print the flyers off and email them, and then they would sign up after that. And that's basically how we did it. So we ran after school clubs 5 days a week. Then we started hiring halls, and we'd hire a cheap village hall for £10-15 an hour. And they would grow into junior, senior, advanced classes from there.
So the after school clubs were for free?
No, the first month was.
Oh yeah, the first month in the school, and then you'd take that out to a
No,
hall.
we'd carry on, teaching in the school.
Ah, right.
But it would be paid after a month, basically.
From the school or from
the students.
Oh right, okay,
yeah.
Right, I'm with you. Yeah. No, it's good, mate. But the fact is, you were willing to give away time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a trade, isn't it? I mean, what else do you have? If you're a 20-year-old martial arts enthusiast and you're desperate to start a club and you have no money, what can you do apart from teach for free?
Yeah,
it's pretty difficult to start something with nothing. You just gotta get yourself out there, I think, and try and be as creative as possible.
Did you use social media at that time?
No. No, I don't think anyone did. Especially in Somerset. You realise what Somerset's like, right?
I've been to Hull and London, and that's it, mate. I'll go anywhere else.
I'm not, I think people do in Somerset now. I mean,
yeah.
But 8 years ago, it was pretty rare. I think people would write the odd blog. They were, there was some paid Google AdWords, that sort of stuff, but it wasn't to the level that we kind of use Facebook
so
now.
You used what you got. You leveraged what was there. That was in front of you, and by all accounts, you did it well. I mean, this thing grew and you brought a few people on, and you made some mistakes, and every other bit that small business does. 2012, you started skydiving. You did 300 jumps. You're about 22 at this point. You then started base jumping. You was using wingsuits and everything else. This kind of adventure that you were seeking it almost kind of culminated in this. Why did you get involved with skydiving?
Looking back, probably because I used to watch my dad jump out of planes every weekend. Yeah. I mean, I had such a passion for it. It was just something I'd always wanted to do my whole life. And now that I had a bit of an income, it's quite an expensive sport to get into, but I had a bit of an income, and I've always seen adventure, like I said, as a high value, something I'd always wanted to do. So I booked an advanced freefall course, and it's from there. It's all I pretty much did in my spare time, and I just absolutely loved it. I was jumping out of planes 1 minute and then teaching martial arts the next. It was just an amazing lifestyle.
Yeah.
And like anything that I try and push myself to do, I find myself wanting to do more and more and more of it. More so just to kind of test myself and see what I'm capable of, and to progress and to get to an advanced level in that. And I very much saw skydiving as a sport, and it's something I wanted to progress at. And for me, the natural progression was to move on to wingsuiting. And after a bunch of wingsuits across America and Spain and Europe and all these amazing trips, it was that's when base jumping started getting quite big on YouTube, and it was really inspiring to watch these guys do amazing things.
Explain what a wingsuit is first, then explain what a base jump is, and the difference between just a normal
so a wingsuit is basically like a suit where you're attached. It's kind of a bit like a straight jacket, but you've basically got wings underneath each arm and between your legs. Like a bat? Yeah, like a bat, yeah. But it inflates. So as you're flying, it fills with air a little bit, which helps propel you forward. And it makes you float for longer, essentially. So you're able to go quite fast in a horizontal direction. And base jumping, it's the idea that you're jumping off either a bridge, antenna, a span, or the earth. So that's the acronym, BASE.
Say it again.
So bridge,
Yeah.
antenna,
Yeah.
span. So bridge.
Yeah.
Sorry, span.
Yeah.
So I'm like, sorry, building. What am I saying? Building, antenna, span, earth.
Yeah.
So it's the acronym BASE, right? So yeah, I booked it took me 38 hours of flying to get to Salt Lake City, where they were doing a first jumps course. I had to do like 4 different flights. It was quite funny, actually. So we got up there, and I did about 50 jumps off a bridge over there, and then about 20 jumps off a cliff. Just really accelerated through the course. Absolutely loved it.
In what time frame?
2 weeks. 2.5 weeks. Yeah, that was tough with jet lag. The first day was jet lag. I did 5 base jumps. I pretty much landed in the north, and I remember waiting at a motel, and you know how in America they top up your coffee.
Yeah,
they top up your coffee. And by the end, I had about half an hour's sleep. I had about 8 cups of coffee, and I had to go and do a base jump. It was pretty nerve-wracking. I should have had a chamomile tea or something like that.
Is it scary to do this kind of stuff?
Yes, 100%. 100%. It's terrifying. It's scary to do anything, like anything extreme. It's scary to fight against a professional fighter. But we've talked in the past, and I really do believe you can get used to anything. For a lot of people, it's scary to jump out of a plane. For most people, right? But after you do it enough, you soon lose the fear for it. And if you're the sort of person who wants to accelerate through things, you start to get the next thing. And for me, this is what happened with base jumping,
So base jumping, so you were totally acclimatized to base jumping. What's the next thing?
Exactly. This is where the danger happens, especially when it's, really glorified online with, videos of people doing amazing things base jumping. And it's, for me, I was full-time teaching martial arts, but this was my hobby on the side, which I was also really passionate about. And it just escalated for me into doing bigger jumps, lower jumps, from lower bridges, lower cliffs, and then wingsuit base jumping. Once I was proficient enough wingsuiting in the sky out of planes, it was doing it off cliffs. So I went to Montebellento in Italy and jumped off that. That's like a 3,000-foot sheer drop, which is perfect for a base jumper, because you've got all this time to make mistakes if you're going to learn to get away from the cliff. And that was just normal base jumping at first, just jumping off in jeans and a t-shirt and a parachute, pulling a parachute and then landing and having an espresso when you get to the cafe at the bottom. But that soon escalated into wingsuit base jumping. And initially, wingsuits were designed to help you as a base jumper get away from the cliff. But these things soon change into how close can you get to the cliff while you're wearing the suit, and again, glorified by the media. And I started to find myself in a very, very small group of people who were wingsuit base jumping.
What so jumping off a cliff and then flying at speed, low level, through valleys, through
valleys, alongside forests and hillsides.
Is that called something specifically?
Yeah, terrain flying.
Right. Okay.
Proximity base jumping. Proximity wingsuiting. So fortunately I didn't get to the level where I was going in between some of these valleys you see, but that was next on the list. But yeah, by beginning of 2014, I was really going quite hardcore on the jumps. I was spending 3 months in Italy, in the mountains, living out there, and I'd hike every day, do a jump, hike back up, do a jump. I'd do about 4 or 5 every morning before 10 a.m.
Was it 2 things? First thing, I think it's a fairly straightforward question. Was you still earning money? Was the business still going, generating income, so you could carry on doing this?
Yeah. So I had one instructor who was covering me if I was going away. But the great thing was we were only term time then. So the Easter holidays would be 2 weeks. The summer would be 8 weeks. So we'd have decent amount of time. I'd try and get cover either side of the holiday so I could extend these trips longer, and then come back for the classes again.
And I suppose the next part of that was, I'm assuming that there was ultimate mindfulness, concentration when you was going back and doing the what did you call it, terrain?
Wingsuit base jumping.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Total focus. It's very much sounds like you know, focus all the way through this to get to this point, but it's getting more and more extreme. 17th of July 2014, there was an accident that you was involved with, and I just want you to take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I mean, just to quickly touch on what you said about mindfulness and being in the moment, I think I drew so many parallels between competing at a really high level in martial arts to, you know, base jumping, and the fact that you're completely out of your comfort zone, but you're relying on your drills so much. Because at that moment, in that high stress environment that's going, it's like chaos going on in your head, you're on the edge of an exit point, standing on the edge of a cliff, and your knees are shaking, and you can't control it, and you've got to find a way just to get control so you can follow through with your drills, right? And so, you know, getting used to that and finding those parallels, and pushing it took me to Switzerland, in a place called Lauterbrunnen, which is notorious for base jumping deaths. You know, it's world renowned for it. And we used to take ski lifts up in the summer, and then hike down to the cliffside, use the via ferrata to get along, sort of jump past everyone else who's clipped in with hard hats on, and we would just skip by them, get to a good exit point, put the suit on, and then just fly. You know, I mean, amazing times there in Switzerland. You know, for me it was as much about nature as it was the excitement of the jump. You know, we would hike for 6 hours, you know, walking across waterfalls to watching deer run past us, and then jumping off a cliff with your mates with wingsuits. It was amazing. But I remember this one day, it was the 17th of July, and my friend had gone back to Spain, who I was jumping with. I carried on jumping myself. It was my 7th jump of the day, and everything normal. Everything was exactly as per normal. You know, did all my checks. You know, I was super confident with it all. Jumped off, dead air, wind builds up, pulling left, the wingsuit inflates alongside the forest, took a right, flared the wingsuit so that I could slow down my fall, pitched the parachute out the back. Parachute came out fine. And then you're in this straitjacket, right? So you can't move until you unzip your wings. So I use my right hand to try and unzip the left wing, but it's jammed, so the zip is jammed. So I used my left hand to unzip the right, so I had a right wing free, so I could use my hand. And I was going quite fast in the direction of some power lines, so I had to make a really sharp turn. So I used my right hand to grab the left riser, pulled it quite quickly to get away from it all and to turn, and the canopy collapsed. And I dropped about 50, 60 foot and hit the ground really hard. My only real thought was, you know, not to try and stay conscious so that I could get myself out of that position, because I didn't know if there was anyone else around. So hit the ground, you know, broke pretty much everything, both feet, ankles, legs. The ligaments blew off my left foot, which took about, it's still not healed today. It took about 2 years to feel the foot again properly, and to walk without crutches. It took about a year or so. So yeah, lying there, you know, my body made such a thud when it hit the ground that some French climbers heard it, and they could hear me screaming afterwards. And so they came over and quickly tried to help me. They took the wingsuit off, packed it in the back of their car, tried to call the air ambulance. The air ambulance were busy, so they couldn't come. So we had to wait an hour for a taxi driver. It was basically a taxi driver, glorified taxi ambulance van who would pick me up. They couldn't give me any morphine or anything like that. So it was another hour to get to the hospital. Then they gave me lots of morphine, and the Swiss surgeons were looking over the X-rays, and they didn't know how to tell me. I could see 3 of them looking at it. I can picture it now, and they just couldn't really break it to me. Eventually, one of them came in and said, you know, there's too much swelling. We can't operate on you. The good news is you can keep the foot, but you'll never walk again. And I remember that just do you know what really the reaction was? I don't care. I'm not listening to you. When can I jump again? Bizarre, right? I mean, that's just what was going through my head. I guess it was I'd gone from, someone who had just been so dedicated to this sport that I just wanted to pursue it. I had so many big dreams of what I was going to do, that it seemed ridiculous to me what they were saying. I later found out there was some truth to it. I mean, I was very, very, very lucky. That year I had, 15 friends die base jumping. I was in this really small group of people who were doing very extreme things, like I said. And I think, I was very lucky doing that, and having that accident probably saved my life. Stopped me from carrying on doing a sport which, as exciting as it is very selfish.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, cheerfulness in the face of adversity, right? I mean, I phoned up my dad. He was in the shower with a plumber. I know that sounds dodgy, but he was just fixing the shower.
Of course he was.
No.
Royal Artillery.
Yeah, there you go. I thought it was the engineers that were like that, no?
Well, they're the plumbers.
Yeah, I broke the news to him. I said to him, Dad, there's been an accident. I'm still handsome. My spine's fine, but my legs are really in a bad way. Can you find a way of picking me up? I got a car. I was borrowing a car which I drove from England to Switzerland, so that was down there. It was 3 days before my sister's wedding, and I was maybe the toastmaster at the wedding, just to make it worse. So the house was filled with all of our Danish relatives. So he then took a one-way flight to Switzerland. Just told my mum that. A very, very brief story that I've had a small accident. She then, dug into it and wanted more information. So she started to really get me to get the x-rays to her and, dig into her contacts. She's a physiotherapist, so she's got lots of, medical contacts. So she managed to get me an ankle surgeon in the NHS, in Bath. And we my dad picked me up and we did an 18-hour journey from, Switzerland to Bath.
In the car?
In the car, yeah, in a Ford KA. And the only thing that would keep my foot up was the parachute. So we got there, and they operated the next day. And then I did something which I probably shouldn't have done. But I give my sister my word that I would be at the wedding. So I had my friend sort out a suit for me, and cut down, because I had both my legs in casts. Managed to cut down each side, stick me in his car, and drop me off at the wedding. So she's probably still annoyed. She probably thinks that I took her limelight a little bit there.
Yeah.
I rocked up on crutches. Everyone wasn't sure if I was still alive, and there I was.
Yeah. What would have been more impressive, obviously, if you'd come in on a wingsuit.
I
was going to say the suit they got.
That was the initial plan, but I had to pack that idea in. So yeah, but then by the end of the night at the wedding, I had to leave, go back to the hospital. I was in too much pain, and in hindsight, probably should have stayed in the hospital, not to do any more damage. But so anyway, 3 months before that, I met Vicky, who is now my wife, who for her, dating this guy who was just so active, just like I was in the peak of fitness. I was just constantly training. I was hiking 6 to 8 hours a day, and when I was home, I was just doing martial arts constantly. To someone who is in a position where he's not sure if he's going to walk again. He's just had surgery where they've reattached the tendons. The heel bone had pretty much exploded in the left foot. They had to remove most of the bone. And I couldn't feel the left foot. That was the weirdest thing. I just couldn't feel it at all. And she pretty much mentored me through it. I mean, just by being there. Initially, I didn't want to see her. I didn't want her to see me in hospital. I didn't want it to turn into a relationship where she was kind of saving me. I could get myself out of this.
The victim.
Yeah, I refuse to be in that position. I can get myself out of this. But I soon, in hindsight, realized we rarely do anything alone. It's when we're making the biggest changes, we have the biggest impact. It's from having a team around us. It was really difficult. I mean, gradually I started to use crutches. And then I was, walking, hobbling on one foot about a year later. But it was really difficult. I mean, you know, it took about 2 years. I mean, even now, if I go on a 2-mile run, I'll be limping the next day. You know, so it's just changing your lifestyle. Everything I was doing, I just had to change it. You know, so even martial arts, like my stand-up professional fighting days in Thai boxing were over as well. So it was, you know, I had to think of other ways. And fortunately, I found Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is, you know, a ground fighting art with very little impact. And that was amazing for me. I was living in Bath, and I was quite lucky that this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu club started up right next to my house. So I could pretty much go there, you know, limp down to the club for 2 hours every day and just train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on mats on the floor. And that was amazing for me, like mentally, physically.
Recovery.
Yeah.
And with regards to kind of your mental health, was you always in a good place during this recovery? Because you've got your now white. Go on, sorry.
Sorry, no, not at all. I mean, you know, there are times looking back where I just felt completely hopeless. That, you know, it was, my muscles were completely deteriorating. You know, it was just a really sad time. You know, and but I just refused to believe what, I mean, the words the surgeon said to me, it just fueled me so much. I just refused for it to go the way they said. And I've pretty much made a full recovery now. But I mean, you know, there were times where, you know, social situations I'd avoid going out because I had so little balance. If I was to, you know, I stopped drinking pretty much, because if I was going out, you know, I'd stand up and almost fall over just because I had no balance, but both my ankles are broken. You know, it looked like I've been drinking too much. So, so, you know, it was. So
you did, even then, you're like, it's classic, really. You avoid certain situations. I mean, that, you know, being around people's great, being around your friends great, but in that, especially in your mid-20s or early 20s, you know, being in maybe a drinking culture or whatever it is, you know, going out and partying, I suppose, detaching yourself, it can sometimes really be detrimental.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think when you remove yourself from a community, you know, that then causes other issues. Yeah. But this is why martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in particular for me at that moment was so good, because it was low impact. You know, I was able to train there like anyone else there because I wasn't hindered by my feet. Whereas if I was standing up, I wouldn't be able to do half the stuff I could do. So suddenly I was in a position where it was just equal. And all that mattered was, you know, who was going to train the hardest. And it was just an amazing community in this club. And there still is today. I mean, you know, I've moved to Dubai now, but I mean, if I go back there, I wouldn't be surprised if the community is still the same. It's just a really welcoming, respectful, healthy community to be a part of. And being in that environment every single day, alongside the support I got from my mum as a physio and my girlfriend at the time, just the emotional support there, just accelerated my recovery. And we went back to the surgeon who looked at my X-rays and did the work on my ankles in July in the UK, and he was just blown away. He said that I'm just, you know, the luckiest guy he's ever met with the accident and the recovery, especially the speed
it sounds
of it.
Tenacious, the recovery phase. The business, did that suffer during this time?
So, I mean, during this time, you know, the business, I had amazing rapport with all of the customers. You know, we had about 200 students. I knew all of them by name. I remember writing a letter to the parents and just saying, I've broken my legs. It's going to take me a while to recover. Not going into too much detail. I remember rocking up on crutches. I mean, this happened at the beginning of the summer holiday, so I had 2 months to get my stuff together before September, when it all started again. Yeah. And I managed to get some help, some cover for the first couple of weeks of September. So pretty much 2 or 3 months after the accident, I rocked up to teach on 2 crutches, parents opening the door for me to teach martial arts to their kids for about 8 months. So, you know, that first year on crutches pretty much, and I was teaching for 8 months. And I was just, you know, teaching, but in so much pain, just sweating from the amount of pain and just trying to teach. It was really difficult. But, you know, again, looking back, it's just the amount of support from parents, and, you know, it was just incredible. They would just come in and, you know, they just wanted to know how I was and you know, to make sure I was okay. And, you know, I was just still so dedicated to helping the children. I just wanted to carry it on, you know.
If we fast forward a little bit now,
Mm.
we kind of first got introduced via a kind of business development program, we'll call it. And I was always so impressed with your vision of your business, from the off. And I think we're in the business journey. We're about a similar level. We're going in different directions, but right now, and I for me, I put a lot on it from that community we're part of there. But watching you develop over the last 18 months has been really inspirational to me, like the way you've gone about, and that you've helped me and you've given me a bit of clarity on a few different things. And even before this record today, we were going over some stuff. But why? Let me phrase it in a couple of things. What is the business now? What has developed because of the injury, because of all the experiences you've gone through? What do you do now?
So the business, I mean, if you really take it back, after when that accident happened, I was pretty much a one-man band. Since from teaching 200 students, from there to now, we've probably got about 30 people in the staff, from assistants to full-time instructors to full-time admins or freelancers helping us, and our ambassador teams, to teaching 2,000 students a year, and we've got about 70 clubs in the UK and Dubai, where I now live. So I think by realizing I needed to work with a team and really become passionate about building a team and building a culture around our organization that everyone can get involved with and everyone's behind the mission and the vision, suddenly we've just soared. I mean, we've just expanded so quickly because of that.
So
but
what is? Come on.
It's just realizing you can't do it alone, and I think that's that kind of transition over that summer in 2017 taught me that.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's not easy to develop a small business.
No,
it's not. You don't always know when to bring money in. You don't always know what the right step is. There's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
But I think one thing I can absolutely back you up on is the need for a team. You cannot do it all yourself. You're rubbish at some stuff. You're great at other things. You need to spend time on that. You need to develop the business. You need to develop the systems that are in place. Those kind of standard operating procedures. You need to develop the culture and that vision. Although you have it, you have to be able to articulate it and kind of spread it amongst the team first and get them to believe in it. And why? What's the business called?
The Warrior Academy.
And why is it so important?
Why is the Warrior Academy so important? The Warrior Academy, for me, solves a huge problem in society, which is the development of character in young people. It's the most important thing a child learns, and it's one of the most important, aspects of their development. But it's so missing in the educational system and in so many, young lives. I mean, having that level of mentoring to take a child, to give them a moral compass, to develop their 3 C's, we call it confidence, concentration, and conduct, and to give them that community, that sustained community through some of the biggest transitions of their life that I've touched on. For me, the work we're doing is just so valuable. And yeah, I mean, looking back at my life, it's again joining up the dots. The things that I do now they're all stemming from things that happened to me as a young person.
Yeah. The mate, this podcast was all going to be about how we piece together a business, and we were going to chat about
part 2.
Yeah, 10 best software for a small business. But I think it's been such a valuable hour, because with this podcast network, this podcast in particular, and especially Declassified, we speak about post-traumatic growth and how we can develop, and I'm very, very passionate about business. I think it can change everything. We look at charity, and charity's great, but there's an expectation where there's not the same expectation on business, especially small business, and especially vision led business as well, where the passion and the almost like the mission statement comes over the profit, and that's the driver. And I think there's a lot to be said for it, and I would really anyone that was going into business, my first bit of advice is just to write down the vision, what you stand for with your values and the ethos of the business. Get that right first, because then your decision making is based on those things. It's not based on the current trend or all these things.
I mean, if you've got a strong vision and you're doing something you're really passionate about, I think if you're probably going from employment to building your own business, right? That's a typical route. So you're going from giving up a paid salary to working 3 times as much for half as much. And unless you're super passionate about it, you're just not going to do it. You're just not going to last. And that's why so many small businesses close down. But I think if you're super passionate, you've got that clear vision that you're talking about, not only can you make it a success, but you can impact lots of lives and build a team to help you with your vision,
Thanks so much, mate, and we will leave it there.